All right, rhythm number one. So, before we get into that, there are some habits to build while you do this. So, you're already tapping your foot, that's good. You're going to continue doing that. So, while you tap your foot, think of it like there's a rope attached from your hand to your foot. So, every time your foot goes down, your hand goes down. Every time your hand comes up, your foot comes up. So, just always following each other. Now, this is just for the eighth note stuff we're going to be starting with. Eventually, getting to like triplets and 16th notes, things will be a little bit different. But for right now, this is just to help solidify this idea of syncing up the hand and the foot and keeping the strumming nice and fluid. Just down, up, no matter what's happening with these rhythms. The other thing to do is you're going to count the part of the beat that you play on. So, normally, when I start people with rhythm, those who are new to it and don't know how to read stuff and are not used to counting anything, we'll start with like quarter notes, half notes, and whole note stuff, and I have them count out loud 1, 2, 3, 4 the whole time. Now, when it comes to eighth notes, it's a little bit too much on most things to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the whole time. So you're going to only say the part of the beat that you play. So for the one on screen right now, and this is something to do, or you can do anytime you might feel you're stuck. And this probably going to want to do that for number 5. So it's well, we'll get to that soon enough here. So something to like help prepare you for the rhythm stuff, especially if it's a new rhythm. You just have your metronome go and just count what the beat is. Say what the rhythm is while the metronome goes. So for the one on screen, you would be going 1 and 3, 4, 1 and 3, 4, 1 and 3, 4, 1 and 3, 4. So if you can't say it, you can't play it. It's one of the most important pieces of advice I was ever given. And it really does ring true. It's like once you can actually say the rhythm that you want to play, it makes it way easier. Way easier. So, I'm going to count off 4 here so you can follow along. And I'm going to count out loud what the rhythm is as I play it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 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 3, 4. Done. Alright, so I was just reminded of some other stuff. So make sure you do not cut the chords off. Don't play it like this. So make sure they're ringing out. And don't do the percussive thing either. So that's a no-go. So just 1 and 3, 4. Have them ring out the whole time. Make sure you don't go into a full bar chord either. We're not doing that. Another thing I'd like you to start doing, instead of barring with your ring finger, let's get that pinky involved. You use your first, third, and fourth finger for these chords. This is going to allow for other things, later on. So like, even like doing bar chords, kind of tough to get all 6 strings to ring out well if you're doing that versus trying to do this. Well, that just creates a suspended 4 anyway. Even if like you're doing a major chord here, so when you go in and try and do this, it's just not going to work too well. So yeah, first, third, and fourth for all these power chords here, which sets you up to be able to do things like things like that. Eventually we'll get into inverted power chords. It's like a way to take this D5 here and make it sound really deep. So it's a really easy way to transition from going from this chord to this versus this to this. That's a lot more work that's not necessary. You also have more control over your muting and whatnot this way, because if you're using the ring finger like that all the time, there's a risk of hitting a fourth string like that right there and creating a different sound of the chord. So let's have you start using your first, third, and fourth finger, and it'll be good to get the pinky worked a bit more too. So let's go on to rhythm number 2. Alright, so count of 4, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 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 4, done. Alright, on to the new territory. Stuff that was put together after yesterday's lesson. So here's exercise number 3. So far, what's happened here, so exercise number 1, you didn't play on beat number 2. Exercise number 2, you are not playing on beat 3. For the third exercise, or rhythm pattern, you're not going to be strumming on beat number 4. So, here's what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 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 done. So on to the fourth one. This one might prove a bit challenging, because this one we don't play on beat number 1. So, one thing to point out here, so we have the 8th note rest that starts this, and the chords are going to be carrying over into the next bar here. So when you do the repeat, and this is, I wrote it out this way just to keep it simple. Technically, the way it's written, you would cut the chord off because there is an 8th note rest at the beginning. I'm going to let this G5 chord ring out over beat 1, or the first half of beat 1 when it repeats. So I want you to do the same. Let this chord ring out when you start the repeat. I'd have to end up writing this out a different way in order to make it look exactly the way I want it to sound, but then it wouldn't be all on just one line and look all easy to read. So anyway, that's why it's written the way it is. So, and anyway, if you have any doubt as to exactly how it should sound, just watch the video, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 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 done. So this also might be a bit of a challenge. So normally, like when you're changing chords, you'll probably change chords doing a downstroke and then changing it. So like do something like, or down, up, down. So basically, like you're probably used to changing chords while doing a downstroke. So here on this one, you're going to be changing the chord on the upstroke. So that might be a tricky spot, maybe not. But in case it is, something you could do is like just focus on doing something like this. So you have your down, up, down. And you can just loop that. So if I have the metronome going, just do this. And you can even like go back and forth between them. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So basically the idea is to get you used to switching the chord as you do an upstroke. So that's like a little supplemental exercise thing you can do there if it's necessary. If you can play this without any hiccups, no need to do the little supplemental thing there. Okay, here's the tough one. This uses all 4 of those rhythm patterns in one fun to play little rhythm exercise here. So something you might need to do when you get into really complicated rhythms is actually write out what a rhythm is. So let's see, how do I want to do this? I think I can just use just put this up on the page, up in the camera. My goodness. What is, okay. I'm using a Jiffy Lube receipt. So basically, what the heck am I talking about? So writing out like a full count of what's happening here. So when we get into like triplets and 8 or 16th notes, it'll be a little bit different. But basically, the way I do my rhythm writing to make it easier to understand what's going on is I look for what the smallest subdivision is, and then I'll write out a full bar count of that. So in this case, 8th note is a small subdivision, so a full count of 8th notes in this would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If it was 16th notes, it would be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So I'd write all that out. But we'll get to that later on. So let me write this first. Ugh, that's a terrible looking N. So basically, that right there. So just a full, all 4 bars, and then write that out. So you may even want to put some bar lines in there, like that. But if you can print out this page, then I would just write it directly underneath the tab anyway. Sometimes that makes it easier. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, let me just do that. I'm just gonna print this out real quick and then show you the thing I do. Here is the exciting part of the video recap. Okay, so we have the exercise. Now I'm going to write out the full count underneath what's being played. So do that first. Oops. Okay. You see how I got all that lined up there? Now on, oh, this is kind of weird. bar 4 here, I started to write it a little bit wrong. It's very. I started putting the number or letter N in the wrong spot there. So it's very important that you got to be careful to put the ones and ands and all that stuff in the correct spot. So, like, you don't want to put 2 underneath beat 2 for the quarter note, and then put an an or the N for beat 3. So if you have a quarter note there, like on the let's say, man, this is weird reading it backwards. Like at the first bar there. So you got beat number 3. So you see I put the 3 and then the N before beat 4 came in. So you just need to line up that sort of thing directly underneath the part it belongs in. So it all lines up nice and neat, because if you don't, this idea ain't going to work. So anyway, after you do that, you underline the part of the beat that you play on, which is going to be the count that you say as you play it. So that'll look like this. Hang on, that underline looks really, really bad. That looks better. Okay, so that's how you'd underline it. So with the count now, and this is what I was talking about, like this one, you might want to have the metronome just go and you say what the count is. So let's do that. I'll hold this up so you can see it. So it's a very helpful trick or technique on counting rhythm stuff. Instead of just relying on seeing the symbols, actually having a very easy to see and read count like this, big time helpful for super complex rhythms. So anyway, this is what we got. We have 1 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 2, 3, 4 and done. So I highly recommend doing that first for something like this, because it's very complex. And it's complex because everything's changing. It's different from bar to bar. So, especially if you have any trouble strumming it, count it first, say it with the metronome, and then go to play it. So, here we go with strumming now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 2, 3, 4 and done. Okay. So that covers all the rhythm stuff to work on for the next 2 weeks. So eventually, the goal is to play through all of the exercises 3 times total per day. So, I mean, once you get the hang of it, it should take like less than 5 minutes. I would assume like 5 minutes or less for each exercise. I mean, maybe just even a couple minutes. Anyway, but that's what I want you to shoot for. 3 perfect takes. That includes the repeat. It doesn't have to be back to back, not 3 in a row. So, like, but anyway, I think that makes sense. I hope so. So, if you have any questions about what to do, please let me know. If anything was made unclear, tell me, and I will try my best to make it clear. So yeah, we'll meet again in 2 weeks from yesterday. So that'll be back on the 19th. Okay. Well, good luck, and we'll see you on the 19th.